Why am I so late to this party on that album Diamond Jubilee by Cindy Lee? I mean, I am really late to the party. The party's been over. I'm not just like showing up as everyone's leaving. It's the next day, and the people whose party it is, they are already at work. Okay, I don't know. Pitchfork said it was the album of the year, and Sir Anthony of Connecticut gave it a yellow flannel and said it was one of the best as well. And I did a poll, and I said, what should I review that I missed in 2024? And this one won by many hundreds of votes. And I'm trying to think, why did I not review it? Is it because like I don't want to just follow the trends? Well, that's not true. I don't mind following trends, and Pitchfork is not wrong a lot of the time, and I generally agree with a lot of what Fantano says. So I was thinking, why did I not? I mean, I love Canada, I really do. I have a long-standing. I was in high school. I had sort of a weird obsession with Canada, tied into my love of Neil Young. More on him later. So this out of Alberta, out of Calgary, land of Igilna and Lanny McDonald and Theo Fleury. I am sure I listened to it and kind of like the general vibe, but I realized what it is. It's too long. When you are a music cricket like me, a part-time music cricket, full-time French professor, part-time music cricket, man, that's a lot of music. And especially the kind of attention I want to give to an album requires multiple listens with a lot of very close listens. And what I realized is that system doesn't always work. And in this case, it really did a disservice because this album is a lot more, I'm not going to say a vibe, but it's a lot more atmosphere. It does stand up to close interpretation, but it does not necessitate it. So, I did one very close listen. I was at the gym and I was taking the notes and I was doing that, and I came home and I finished it and I did all that. But for the most part, I've just been living with this album. Living with this album for a couple of days. And much like that Fievel is Glauc album, some music is a lot more fun to listen to than it is to analyze. And that's like the highest compliment that a music critic could give to an album, Like, well, I really enjoyed listening to it, but I don't really enjoy talking about it. I think that's what most musicians would like. What is there to enjoy this crisply recorded, bad sounding guitar so much of the time, rhythm that's sometimes out of step? Those things don't make you think it's going to be so great, but this beautiful, usually female voiced singer, ethereal, and just wonderful. Just so many faraway production details, tapping into so many things that I love. I mean, I record with not just a couple of dogs, but also Velvet Underground behind me at all times. It reminds me of Velvet Underground, reminds me of Modern Lovers, reminds me of Phil Spector, reminds me of the Beach Boys, reminds me of, what's the other one? There's one other one that I was thinking. Oh, of course, Neil Young. Okay, it reminds me of all those things all at once, while at the same time not sounding like it's trying to ape any of it. And you just get into it. Especially when you're like me, and I'm super analytical. My ADHD brain and everything, I clock everything. I'm hyper attentive. I pay attention to everything. This music gets me in a state where I'm just like, wait, is this the same song? Oh no, I'm 5 songs later. I have to go back to my notes. The best time I had listening to this was on Sunday, where I listened to it, and I make pancakes with my 2-year-old. So, I bring it downstairs. She puts on a little apron. I put on an apron. I follow a really good recipe. We actually made waffles this Sunday. In the morning, I'm making waffles. So it was really exciting, really fun, and we just listened to it. And she was enjoying it. I was enjoying it. My wife came down. She said, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, this is Cindy Lee. This is really good. I like this." About 45 minutes later, my teenage daughter comes in. What is this? We all really liked it. And then I had kind of a funny moment where I realized, I listened to the album all the way through before I understood that it was actually a dude who's in charge of who's doing the whole thing, Patrick Flegel. As far as I know, he identifies as a man, and he has a persona that's in drag. If that is incorrect, that is not because I think I know better about how this person identifies. That is what I picked up on my limited research. I will 100% pin any comment that wants to correct me on that, okay? But that's based on my research. That's what it says, okay? That this person goes by the name of Patrick Flagel, and it made me kind of laugh because I basically had a drag brunch, you know, and it was really enjoyable. It's interesting too, because my whole life, like there wasn't much talk about drag artists or drag, with the exception of like when that movie The Birdcage came out. Reinterpretation of a French movie. And now we have Chappell Roan, who is a female artist who performs in drag, at least according to her. And then we have this, like in the same year, we have like the queen of pop and then like the top of indie music at the same time, both inhabiting this kind of drag thing. I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy who you want doing a study of relationship of how gender is performed by men and women and how the nature of how exaggerated images of women is permeating our culture and what does it mean. Like, I'm not the one to do that paper, but I guarantee you, like Dom DeLuise, that paper is being written right now. Someone is writing that paper. Someone is making that video essay. Because we're living in an interesting drag moment. True story. I've only ever been to one drag show. I was at a gay bar, like a nightclub, just with some friends. I'm not gay, but you know I can hang. And I saw one of my students, one of my active students there, and I was still wearing my suit from teaching, and she was like, and I was like. And it was very funny. I don't remember who won. I did not perform. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who's going to get back to this whole feeling I had of being kind of lost in this album. And it turns out, when you do a little bit of research, listen, I'm an academic, right? And when you're an academic, you get sick of terms. You get sick of words that people come up with. Simulacrum. The amount of times I've wanted to just throw a coffee cup at someone who says the word simulacrum when they just mean imitation. Anyways, hypnagogic. Hypnagogic, that's modal. That's what this genre is called. I don't hate it though. And I'm going to study it a little bit because it seems that this is an example of someone coming up with a title to describe a kind of music, and then the need for that music occurred organically. So hypnagogic is that wakefulness to sleep, like that stage in between. I used to have some weird sleep stuff where I would when I would fall asleep, I would know I was going into a nightmare and I would have to fight against it. And it was like I was sinking into like pits of sand. And sometimes this thing would happen where noises would get really loud, like the loudest noises you've ever heard. And I would get paralyzed and I'd just be sitting there, just hearing like, man. Anyways, so hypnagogy is not my favorite time of existence. But according to Wikipedia, and when I looked at their definition, usually, by the way, Wikipedia is great for modern stuff. You know, your kind of modern horse hockey, this microgenre of that microgenre. Wikipedia that's really good. It's pop or psychedelic music that draws heavily from popular music and the cultures of the 80s, also ranging from the 70s to the early 90s. It reflects a preoccupation with outmoded analog technology, bombastic representations of synthetic elements from these epochs of pop culture, with its creators informed by collective memory as well as their personal history. Per the imprecise nature of memory, the genre does not faithfully recreate the sounds or styles of those periods. In this way, it distinguishes itself from revivalist movements. And all of that is just perfect for this album, because that's the thing. Like, it doesn't feel like it's really trying to be a bunch of older stuff. I mean, I'm going to be making a lot of references to older stuff because I am a music cricket. And music crickets are going to chirp. You know, that's what we do. Sorry, my computer is telling me that my phone, that is now my camera, is low on battery. The doctor and Mrs., my wife, she hooked me up with this new setup for Christmas. Some people say I'm losing my soul. Other people say, Sky, you've upgraded. I just say, I can record at night now. That's sweet as hell. Anyways, this all kind of works together and helps me to better understand this album and that feeling that I got where I was telling you, where I'd listen to the album and I'd be like, oh man, I'm supposed to be taking notes on this thing, and I just missed like 3 or 4 songs. So instead of going by track, because there's 32, when you listen to as much music as I do, and when you make as many videos as I do, like the thing that you hate to see the most is a really long album with like 32 tracks like this one. I don't actually feel that way because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a slice of this pie. I tried to find a Calgary specific dessert to make this reference. All I found was a bunch of stuff about bison. I guess they eat a lot of bisons in Calgary. And something called Saskatchewan berries. So let's pretend we're talking about a Saskatchewan berry pie, okay? One slice will give you an idea of what that tastes like. So I'm going to go really into tracks 4 to 10. One more thing, by the way, Cindy Lee, if that is your real name, which it isn't. Also, is this tied into Cindy Lou Who? Because that's probably the other reason I didn't review this. I thought it was a Dr. Seuss thing. I mean, I didn't actually, but just like in my head, I just kind of, I don't know. Anyways. The track listing is wildly different depending on where you listen to it. So I listen to it on Tidal because they give a cent per stream. That's a lot more than everyone else does. Okay? So I'm not going to talk about the first track, Diamond Jubilee, this great guitar and bass. The guitar is almost like, I thought, is this going to be like an African guitar style? No, not there. Stone Faces, a really fun bass line, little jam, 24/7 heaven, these distorted sounds, instrumental and dreamy. No, I really want to start with probably my favorite song on the album, All I Want Is You. It's catchy, it's dreamy, this double voice, this guitar that just sounds so, like when you play around with the guitar, there's like different settings that you can have based on which pickup you're using, and like sometimes you'll just do a setting where it's just picking up the pickup that's like maybe the closest to the bridge of the guitar, and if you just have it plugged into an amp with like no pedals or anything, it can just sound just like, oh my god, how can an electric guitar sound so bad? That seems like Cindy Lee was like, that's the sound that I want. But of course it works because this album is absolutely great. And it feels like I don't know if Cindy Lee is 10 people. I don't know if it's just Patrick Flegel recording everything. It feels to me like one person imitating a group. But what I love about this is just how simple it is. Just G. I'm on a Greyhound, A minor. I hit the border soon. I mean, anyone can play this. I just told them, take it easy and let me through. It's like, and all the songs are like this. All I've got is the truth, right? Like, there's no like suspended 7th, 8th. There's no nothing. There's a simplicity, a brutal simplicity to this. But the way that it's recorded means that it's meaningful. And hey, I told you I was going to keep talking about Neil Young. I have a little pet theory about Canadian musicians. Because of that law that makes it that you have to listen to a certain amount of Canadian music on the radio, I think Canadians listen to more Neil Young than Americans do. And I think it really helps Canadian music because I remember I was driving in Canada and I heard Mellow My Mind off of Tonight's the Night. Like a real deep cut off of, okay, Tonight's the Night. Hey, whoa, Jesus Christ, I haven't even thought about this. Sky, what's your favorite albums or whatever? If you like Cindy Lee, Diamond Jubilee, it is your homework to listen and learn to love Tonight's the Night by Neil Young. It is the perfect example. The same basic idea. Everything's so simple, so straightforward, but these lyrics are great about being in the border and all I've got is the truth and all I want is you. That's a sophisticated, super far out, really great lyric, but it's also really simple. It sounds like it's a lyric that could have been just invented to fit over the chords, or it could be the deepest truth that Cindy Lee is trying to enunciate. And that's the feeling that you get, that I get from Neil Young at his best, is what I get from here. And I don't know, I haven't listened to the discourse. I didn't read the Pitchfork article. I don't know what they say. I didn't watch Fantano's review. I don't know. And there's like a weird little unexpected guitar run, Allman Brothers style guitar almost here, and then ends with like bass and drums. And then we get to the song Baby Blue, which sounds like an old 60s classic redone by some outsider band. I think Baby Blue is interesting. So from what I can tell, this is a very sort of gay album. So it's very much about like a love of a man for another man, or a man trying to figure out how to love other men, right? And that's obviously interesting. There's not nearly enough music on that topic. It's usually very interesting, and it's a view into human relationships that we rarely get. So I don't know. If it were up to me, there would be a lot more music like that, because I still feel like there's so much emotional truth that has not been shared with the world. And I know I'm not looking as hard as I could, but like, there should be more of it. So anyways, so it seems as though this Baby Blue character is some guy, I presume, who he's really into. As a Dylan fan, you might be thinking it's all over now, Baby Blue, but I don't hear that. Because I don't hear early Bob Dylan in this. I hear what I consider to be the best Bob Dylan phase, the mid-'70s. I hear Planet Waves. I hear the song Never Can Say Goodbye. Oh, baby, baby blue, you changed your last name too. You turned your hair to brown. Oh, they see it hanging down. Anyways, that's how I kind of see it. Because when he says, oh, baby, baby blue, it feels really connected to the baby blue of that Dylan song. I don't know. I didn't read Genius. Maybe he said this in 1,000 interviews. Maybe it's not true. Who knows? Everybody tells me that it's just no good, but he's always saying he's in love with you. Do you know what this reminds me of emotionally? It reminds me emotionally of Perfume Genius, in that way where I feel like a lot of the themes hits at what I'm talking about. Like, I want to hear more songs by men about being in love with men, or about being in lust with men, or about being confused about the two, all those things. And I've seen a lot of movies about that. There's a lot of great movies about that, but again, maybe it's because, there was just such a, obviously such a societal push against it. I don't know. I'll never forget when someone told me that the song Hand in Glove by the Smiths had some gay connotations. I was like, it did? So maybe I just need to listen with more open ears. But yes, Guy, the sun shines out of our behinds. Oh, is that what he said? I didn't even know what he said. Yeah. At the end of the video, if I remember, I'll show you the album, the single cover for Hand in Glove. It might be a little indication of what the song's actually about. Anyways, unexpected strings all over this album just pop up. So many foggy layers. And the whole thing sounds like, I just did a whole video all about like buying music in the 90s. And I talked about the different levels of cassette tapes. This is recorded on a Radio Shack tape, which is the lowest level. If you record something on a Radio Shack tape, expect it to disappear. You might as well put like sensitive government secrets on there, because that will explode on its third listen. And the great little sort of velvety underground bit with this droning piano at the end, and just this whole suite. You see, I'm taking just one little slice of this pie. Crime of Passions, like what 60s movie soundtrack is this from, with this duet with himself, I think. These arpeggiated guitar chords. You don't have to take aim for the moon and the stars. Don't you know that I love you for who you are? Beautiful lyrics, and these strings, again, unexpected in the left channel, deepest blue. I assume it's the same blue. High singing with it, and then there's a lot of the kind of arpeggiated guitar stuff. So that's like the trick they did a lot in the 50s. So instead of playing, they'll do, it's the same chord. You see how that's out of tune. But so that's a way to get that kind of 50s feel. You arpeggiate the chord as opposed to strum the chord. Beato. Infinity. But that's very much what happens in a lot of this album, and that's right here. Forever a flame that is burning, deepest darkness, deepest blue, with my head hung in shame. I'll be seeing you again. It breaks into kind of a little guitar waltz. Again, so much of the... Okay, so when I mostly review hip-hop on this channel, which is nice because I never tried to make hip-hop music, so I don't listen to it and go, God damn it, that's what I was trying to do. But I did used to be a rock musician or an indie musician, or I don't know, whatever the hell I was. I was just making music, And like, this is so much of what I wanted to do, to be able to make a thing that sounds raw like this, that sounds kind of Tonight's the Nighty by Neil Youngie, while at the same time having kind of a Beach Boys, Phil Spector kind of vibe going on at the same time. Hey, this is a good album. And then we get to Dracula. Oh my God, what an unexpected song. For an album that is so consistent with its themes and its atmosphere, all over the place, it keeps popping up with totally different new sounds. Weirdly enough, while I listen to albums, I also watch a movie at the same time. on mute while I'm on the elliptical. ADHD is real. And so I'm sitting there, and I picked a movie just at random, John Carpenter's Vampires. Man, that's like one of the most hateful movies I've ever seen. It's wild. Daniel Baldwin and James Woods? Not his finest hour. Anyways, it was pretty nice because it was at least thematically linked in here. This song's, a little more fun, almost like, makes me want to holla, kind of Marvin Gaye style. It just has this whole groove, and these synths come in, this great wah, and this. Do I have to keep talking about Neil Young? I do, because listen, Neil Young gets a lot of flowers, but if you like indie music that is raw at all, he deserves most of those flowers. Because the way the guitar is going through here and the amount of space, and this is the way I felt listening to Down by the River for the first time. Listen to the song Down by the River off his second album. His second album is not very good on the whole, but it has some amazing highlights. That, Everyone Knows This Is Nowhere. Great title. Listen to that song and that same kind of space and groove, and the voices are doubled away. Do you remember where we used to live? Bathurst Street in January. My world is made of ice. 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm feeling no pain. I'm living like Dracula. My heart's of stone and I'm all alone. Have you ever been to Canada in January? Do not go to Canada in January, okay? I cannot tell you how many times I've been. This is true. I think Bathurst is in Montreal. There's a lot of Bathurst in Canada. I think there's a town called Bathurst in like Nova Scotia or one of those places. And I know Bathurst is a street in Toronto. I think there's one in Montreal as well. And he sings a little bit in French, so I assume he spent time in Montreal. But like, I was in Montreal, and it was in March. And I was so cold, I almost died. I went for a walk to see a friend, and my jacket wasn't very good, and my phone died. And I was walking up like in this public park, up this hill, and I just thought to myself, I should lie down and curl up so I can warm up a little bit with my body heat. That's how people freeze to death. So anyways, when he talks about my world is made of ice, you cannot understand cold until you have been to Toronto or Montreal in January. It's a different level. I live in Rochester, New York, and this is frickin' Hawaii compared. Oh, God, man. So I felt this song really hard, just with my minimal experience. You just open up the door to go outside, and you're like, oh, and then you immediately go away. Flesh and blood, great pulsing sounds, resolving guitar notes, very kind of... The thing is, no wonder everyone loves this. This is like a music cricket's wet dream. It's like Modern Lovers with Nico vocals. This great thumping bass, Another Sleepless Night, I'm Cloaked in Moonlight, and I'm Cruising again. So I assume cruising, that's the practice of going out at night and trying to find semi-anonymous sexual relationships. There's a very interesting Al Pacino movie called Cruising. When you're done watching that movie, you're like, did that movie just happen? Anyways, I don't remember if it is wildly homophobic and also important or just wildly homophobic. It's a fascinating movie, though. Anyways, and it gets faster, these full jams, and now I just have the image of Al Pacino, by the way, is the star of the movie, just like huffing poppers, and it's this whole thing. And it gets really loud and uncomfortable with this end jam and just cuts off unpredictably. He does that a lot, very long stuff that ends. And then there's a song called Gable Vision. It's not really a song. It's like an 80s video game soundtrack. I don't know. It kind of falls apart. I love it. I assume it's trying to sound like a commercial for Cablevision, but like gay. So like Gablevision, like gay Cablevision. Then we get Glitz. What? Where did this come from? I wasn't ready for Dracula. I sure as hell am not ready for Glitz. This sounds like Boston. Like the band Boston. This sounds like the kinds of songs they play on classic rock radio where I'm like, I should probably change the channel right here. It's got sort of Don't Stop, but it's kind of got your Journey, your kind of Boston-y area, But it's great. It's a great blown out keyboard melody. Government Chicoui. In Canada, they spell things the British way. government check. True story, I once got in a fight with a friend of mine about the hockey team, the Quebec Nordiques, because he thought they were pronounced Nordiques. His family was from French Canada. Government check, the smoky, sweet, it talks about moving out at 25, this thinly thumpy bass drum. It's so muted, speeds up, and it falls out of rhythm, and it must be on purpose. And this great transcendent guitar line that's just out of tune. That's the whole thing. That's what I'm talking about. You hear this song, and you just hear these guitars, and you're just, I guess it's hypnagogic, right? It's just, what? And then the song, If You Hear Me Crying, might just happen, and I don't know. Or this is the song I don't like, because it's got feedback. It's too much feedback. It's just too jarring. It kind of messes with the flow. Le Machiniste Fantôme, that's where I assume he's talking about the Bathurst Street in Montreal. You all Canadians, you can correct me. I've made so many specific hockey references and Neil Young references and Canada references. I think I'm in your good graces, but I don't know. I'll just start talking about Dale Howarchuk. A little kind of scary French lullaby. It sounds like a... Okay, so this auto-corrected. I meant to say soundtrack to spaghetti western. But what came out on my notes, I have to show this to you. I have to show this to you because I can. Spaghetti watermelon. Jesus Christ, that's disgusting. Ew. Spaghetti watermelon. Man. Anybody out there who wants to start a band and name it Spaghetti Watermelon, I will review your EP, okay? Just you'll have to remind me. You have to timestamp this and tell me about it. Because Spaghetti Watermelon is just gross. Next song is called Lockstep. Almost like a heavy metal start. And then there's this thing that happens where, because I guess he's singing in drag. And this is the whole thing. I'm an old guy. I'm 47 years old, but I'm not that old of a guy, right? I'm not in my day or whatever. But definitely a lot of the gender stuff is not stuff that I was thinking about when I was younger, right? I started thinking about it in my adulthood, right? So it's very different, right? When you start thinking about it when you're older. I've talked about it all the time on my channel. So he will slip into a non-female sounding voice, and it's just effortless, and it makes the whole project make more sense to me. Because it just seems like he just understands that there's this way that he can communicate, that he feels more comfortable, and he communicates it in that way, and then it's communicated. And then if there's some other way, there's a freedom to it. Maybe that's why this album hits with people so much, is this, it's just so free. It's just, anyways, it's great. Next song is called Olive Drab. I don't like that title. I don't like this song. This has almost like a Home Depot Black Keys start. Same thing with the next song, To This Wounded Heart. Again, sort of Black Keysy, but I really love the nice guitar development. Wild One. So Wild One, kind of simple boom bap bap on drums, and then Wild Rose was the most fun I had with my baby. Okay, so I'm sitting there. She's sitting on a step stool. I'm trying to figure out. You gotta separate egg whites to make good waffles. You gotta separate the egg whites from you gotta till they hit stiff peaks. I'm sorry. You gotta fold in the egg whites. If you want to make good waffles, you gotta fold in the egg whites, folks. Okay. So I'm working on folding in the egg whites, and the song comes on, and my 2-year-old has never done this before. She just goes, "Papi, this song." I was like, "What? This song." She just liked the song, and she just I didn't even understand how much she was listening. Like, "Papi, this song, this." Anyways, so next time you listen to that, I want you to imagine a little baby Professor Sky. This song. It does remind me a little bit of the song Tequila, which is a fun song. Always Dreaming, swirling synths, maybe even more kind of Beach Boys like here. Dallas, more of those arpeggiated chords, very mournful. I never felt so blue as the night I saw you. Once again, underneath the Texas moon, I've got all I want, got all I need without you. Still I would bend down my knees under you, this wandering guitar, darling of the discotheque. Basically a Hawaiian vibe on this album. It sounds like he's playing a Les Paul, like a anyways, I can't tell. The drums, just these snares, just rattling. Demon, B-word, interlocking notes, more work here, like this double voice. Again, it's like unclear how many people are singing. I think it's just one in different modes. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Arpeggiated chords, like double sounding Nico singing. By the way, this book, if you're interested in Nico, You Are Beautiful and You Are Alone is the name of the book. By Jennifer Otteridge Bickendike. It's a very good book. Let me see. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't read all of it. My daughter has made it to page 168, which I'm afraid to tell her that's more than most people read of a book when they buy it. But that's an interesting biography of a very complex and interesting figure in music. Dreams of You, I just love the way these low strings are kind of chugging. Durham City Limit, pointed end of this, like, I keep saying all these things I love, but I'm trying to go through quickly. I'm trying to go through quickly because I don't want this to be oppressive, you know? But I love this, like the guitars, so I'll bring the thing out again. I don't know the chords, you know, but it's like they're pointed, you know, they're like just pointed notes at the end here, while the bass line is just wandering all over the place. Again, I just tune out, okay? I've never done a drug in my life, okay? The exception of, caffeine and some alcohol. I've never done any drugs in my life, so I don't do the whole see the music, freak out, psychedelic stuff. And part of the reason that I don't is that music helps me understand that feeling, because this music does that to me. It does. Next song is called Golden Microphone. Really high voice. This feels like this might be more about what place what place they have in music. The drums are almost kind of like Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles mixed with the Rawnettes. I have my doubts. It comes in straight from the last one with perhaps the best guitar solo in the whole album. Kingdom Come, more breezy, kind of the Hawaiian sound, kind of tropical. Realistic Heaven. The drums are at the other end of a warehouse. Okay, so they recorded this, I assume, in a warehouse in Calgary, okay? And they put a microphone here, and they put just way over there. And then eventually the drums come in. This is why I could do a 5-hour review of this album, because I get the sense you could really take just the song Realistic Heaven, just the way the drums are treated, and really get into it. And I bet if you're watching this, then you're a super fan. Apparently, they canceled the tour because people were too interested, because it was too oppressive being this popular and loved. So what does that mean? What does that mean that Chappell Roan was this drag performer who got so big that they were uncomfortable with it? And then in the indie, there was a drag performer who got so big that they were uncomfortable with it. Who is writing this paper right now? Who is making this video essay on gender and gender expression? Man, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Till Polarity's End, just kind of vibing out. I'm just in a fugue state at this point till we get to What's It Going to Take, Never Too Late, 2 o'clock to get over, 4 o'clock to get over, Sunrise, oh yeah, Sunrise. Ends on a kind of note of hope. In general, this album, the lyrics, I don't pick them out all the time. It feels like it's a lot about love and about trying to find love and trying to feel okay, and a very sort of uprooted feeling. There's a lot of different locations. There's Texas, there's the border, there's Montreal, I think there's New York in there somewhere. So yeah, I ask my Patreons if they want a shout out, and some of them do. So these are my Patreons. They help me to get to buy music. I think I might buy this album because my whole family enjoys listening to it so much. And what I imagine doing is just just listening to side, because I think it's a triple album. Just listening to side 1 for 3 days, and then side 5 for 3 days, Anyways, Mig Online, Thomas Boss, Dragoons, Eric from Salem, and Trevor Habig all wanted it. And Riley Atkinson also wanted a shout out, and they threw in just a gratuitous fuck Phil Spector, just because maybe you haven't seen this. This is my collection of Smith's posters. I have a complete run of Smith's posters, and I will show you the cover of Hand in Glove, the song, which I was at some point surprised to find out might have some gay overtones. So, great poster. Apparently the bass player's dad was like, what is this? He did. What kind of band are you in, son? I'm so glad the world's evolved. All right, well, until next time, there's the camera.